السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رب صائم ليس له من صيامه إلا الجوع صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Respected brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enumerated His blessings upon us from health to wealth, family and friends, and now being able to witness this beautiful month of Ramadan once again. This is a huge ni'mah that He has bestowed upon us. And many individuals have passed away within this past year that did not get a chance to witness this beautiful month of Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive them and grant them the highest ranks of Jannah. But for those of us that are here, the question is, what are we going to do now that this month has arrived? We've been talking about preparing. Now it's actually here. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this month that there are only 5 obligatory aspects within our deen. And siyam, fasting, is one of them, just like as it was prescribed for the previous nations. And the result is what He mentions at the end of the ayah. But you notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to fast, refraining from eating and drinking, these things that may be halal on a day-to-day basis. But He didn't say that so that you may feel hungry. That wasn't the result of why you should fast. That's not the reason of why you should fast, so that you should feel hungry. No, not at all. If that is, then that's a different issue. That's a different problem. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the result is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, that you may attain this concept of taqwa. Taqwa is not something that you just automatically obtain with an empty stomach. It's not, I'm hungry, I didn't eat all day and from Fajr all the way until Maghrib I have taqwa. No, taqwa is within. Taqwa is within the qalb. That's something that's within. If the stomach fasts, but the heart does not fast, then honestly, what did we really accomplish? If we just refrain from eating and drinking, but we didn't obtain anything besides hunger, not very much of an accomplishment. Because the Prophet ﷺ warned against that very individual. He said, رُبَّ صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعَ. That perhaps you're going to find an individual, you're going to find a person that fasts, but the only thing that they get from their fast is what? Hunger. That's the only single quote-unquote benefit you want to think. The only result that they get is this aspect of being hungry. Now you think about it. 30 days of effort, day in and day out, you're eating iftar, you're delaying your dinner, you're waking up at an odd time to eat quote-unquote breakfast. For what? What's the benefit? Hunger? No. But if that's what's written in our records, then that's a sad way to fast. So there's one aspect of fasting, is to obtain this aspect of the spiritual self, to obtain this rank of taqwa. But there are other aspects that we need to fast from as well. The eyes must fast in this blessed month of Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ, that you tell the believing men, and the next ayah, the believing women, that they lower their gaze. Why? Because the eyes, they usually commit the sins before the hands would do it. The eyes commit the sins before the hands do. And in Ramadan, this is where we like to start our habits. It's not that we're just Muslims in the month of Ramadan. It's not that we just do our a'mal in the month of Ramadan. The purpose of your Ramadan is to allow you to do your a'mal through the next 11 months as well. So in Ramadan, the eyes must fast from these unlawful glances, from immodesty, from these different social media temptations that we may have, from watching what poisons the heart. Why? Because the eyes, they are a gateway to the heart. The ears are a gateway to the heart. And if that is what we want from our fast, then we want to make sure that every avenue to the heart is clean and clear. There are no roadblocks there. What's the point of starving the body if you're feeding the soul with images of sin? What's the fa'idah of that? The Prophet ﷺ said, لَيْسَتْ الصِّيَامُ مِنَ الطَّعَامِ وَالشَّرَابِ إِنَّمَا الصِّيَامُ مِنَ اللَّغْوِ وَالرَّفَثِ فَإِنْ سَابَكَ أَحَدٌ أَوْ جَهِلَ عَلَيْكَ فَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. He said that you want to talk about fasting? You want to talk about siyam? What is true siyam? What is true fasting for the Muslim? True fasting for the Muslim is not that he just stay away from food and drink. That's easy. That's not what true fasting is. Yes, if you go to the fiqh of it, that you stay away from sharab and ta'am and relations with the spouse. Okay. We're talking about from the spiritual lens right here. That true fasting, if you want to get the real reward, the real benefit, long-term benefit, is that you stay away, yes, from food and drink. Okay, that's an aspect of it. But what is true fasting? You stay away from lagh and rafath. You stay away from useless type of conversations, unnecessary conversations. Yeah, you stay away from any type of unnecessary interactions that may have no benefit whatsoever. And if somebody approaches you and they try to instigate and they try to interrogate and they try to make you perform certain or say certain things, trying to test your patience, then what is your job as the Muslim, as the fasting individual? You're fasting in that state as well. So what is the fasting individual's response? They're not going to respond in the way of ignorance. They're not going to respond in a way of jahl. That's not how the fasting individual is going to respond. They're going to watch their tongue. They're going to watch what their eyes gaze upon. They're going to watch what feelings that they have within the heart. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ لَمْ يَدَعْ قَوْلَ الزُّورِ وَالْعَمَلْ بِهِ فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةٌ فِي أَنْ يَدَعَ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ. That individual who doesn't care and they just continuously lie and have useless conversations and they act upon it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is of no need of that individual to leave his food and drink. No benefit. No benefit whatsoever. No. Whether it's backbiting, mocking any individuals, you having your iftar parties and at the iftar party you have arguments taking place, online debates filled with arrogance and ignorance, This is Ramadan. This is Ramadan. At least make some type of habit in the month of Ramadan, that you leave some of those actions before this month is gone. You'll see the Salaf, they'll talk about individual trying to do tazkiyah of the self, trying to rectify the self. And they always emphasize that yes, you do good deeds, that's important. You perform a'mal, that's important. But you cutting down on the sins, that's also equally as important. Otherwise, the impact of that good deed is not going to overpower the sins that you may have been doing. So you cut out the sins as well at the same time. You cut out the bad deeds as well at the same time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. That not a word an individual utters except that somebody is observing and somebody is ready to write those a'mal down, ready to write those words down. We have some of us may fast from food, but in reality they're feasting on other individuals' honor. So the nur that we obtain from fasting, it can be extinguished by the sins of the tongue. That's why we watch every single thing that we see, and we watch every single thing that we say, especially in a state of fasting. Talking about the eyes fasting, talking about the tongue is fasting. Yes, the ears as well. وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا اللَّغْوَ أَعْرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that when they hear useless, vain talk, what do? They turn away. They turn away. That is what the believer needs to do. Because listening to backbiting is participation in and of itself. Listening to corruption softens the heart towards this corruption. And the believer, no, he's different. Her characteristic is different. They know that in Ramadan, what enters his heart, the believer in Ramadan protects whatever enters the heart, just as he protects whatever enters his stomach. No. We're very careful and cautious. If you know me, I love talking about food. Very careful and cautious about what I eat in suhoor and in iftar time. That's good and great. But if you're careless about what enters the soul, where are we going to get? Yeah. Where is that going to go? No. So the heart must fast. The heart must fast as well. That's the whole beauty of doing more a'mal. You do more a'mal, you do more Quran recitations, you do more khatams, you do more adhkar, you go to the masjid more, then what? That's going to refrain you from doing sins. That's going to refrain you from doing any bad habits that you may have done outside of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا وَإِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. Indeed, there is a piece of flesh in the body. If it's sound, then the whole body is going to be sound. What is that? That is what we were just talking about, the heart. That is the heart. This is the impact that the heart has on the rest of the body. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns of certain diseases of the heart. أَمْ يَحْسُدُونَ النَّاسَ عَلَى مَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. That do they envy people for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them of His bounty? Envy, this aspect of hasad, it contradicts contentment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree. That's what you're really showing to Allah. Riyah is not far too off. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. That woe to those individuals. They're actually praying salah. But why are they praying salah? Yura'un. For the aspect of riyah, for the aspect of showing off. Are we posting our ibadah on social media more than perfecting our ibadah? That's the question. It's a sad state to see, when you go to haram Every other individual has their what's it called? They have their cell phone and they're taking selfies, right? They're doing videos, they're doing their selfies through tawaf, through the, in front of the maqam Ibrahim, when they're doing salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, who are you trying to show? You're trying to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That's the purpose of you going all the way over there. You don't need to show anybody else. No. Keep that ibadah between you and Allah. No. Many aspects that we can talk about, inshallah, of the diseases of the heart. But anger is one as well. It's very difficult in the month of Ramadan. We're fasting. We don't have any food and drink, so our scale is a little bit easier tipped in this month without having any food and drink throughout from Fajr to Maghrib. But when somebody does provoke us, as the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inni sa'imun," that I am not just fasting from food and drink, but I'm fasting from responding to idiotic type of statements. I am fasting from saying something that I know would be detrimental to my fast. So we're not just fasting with the stomach, we're fasting with the ego as well. So we have to have some type of reality check, that if our character does not improve in the month of Ramadan, if our temper remains unchanged, if our grudges remain the same, if our tongues still are sharp, then we ask ourselves honestly, are we fasting or are we just dieting? No. Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu an, he said that إِذَا صَمَتَ فَلْيَصُمْ سَمْعُكَ وَبَصَرُكَ وَلِسَانُكَ عَنِ الْكَذِبِ وَالْمَآثِمِ وَدَعْ أَذَى الْجَارِ وَلْيَكُنْ عَلَيْكَ وَقَارٌ وَسَكِينَةٌ يَوْمَ صَوْمِكَ وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَوْمَ صَوْمِكَ يَوْمَ فِطْرِكَ سَوَاءٌ. He said a very ajib statement, and this is basically the summary of the entire khutbah. He said that when you fast, that let your hearing, your sight, your tongue fast from lying and sin as well. Leave harming the neighbor. Let there be dignity and calmness upon the day that you fast. And don't make the day that you fast just as equivalent as the day you don't fast. Meaning the amal that you do on the days that you fast should not be the same as the amal that you do on the days that you don't fast. There should be some type of difference. There should be some type of change in the mentality. Should be some type of change in the amal that you do. That is the purpose of Ramadan. That is what taqwa is. You have some type of transformation occur. Now, if we can leave halal foods for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan, then we can leave haram habits for Allah as well. If we can resist water in private, then we can resist sin in private as well. So the practical challenge, for our first 10 days is that you have any grudges in the heart, you remove those grudges. You rectify any relationships that you may have. You have this recurring sin that occurs with the heart, with the eyes, with the ears, and you knock those out one by one. And then you'll be able to make time for dhikr. You'll be able to make time for tilawah. You'll be able to make time for taraweeh. You'll be able to make time for every other ibadah in the month of Ramadan. Because that's a tragedy. It's a real big tragedy that, it's that the only tragedy is not that, Ramadan comes and it passes. What's the real tragedy? The real tragedy is that Ramadan passes and we remain the same. There's no transformation whatsoever. That's the real tragedy. So we're here. I don't mean to be negative, but we're here. We're in the month of Ramadan right now. We check ourselves right in the beginning of the month. What am I doing different? And how can I continue this for the next 10 days, for the next 20 days, and for the next 11 months? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be people of transformation. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.